presented by the Strong Blue Line Foundation and powered by Moose Ridge Coffee in Snake River Landing, Idaho Falls. Welcome to the podcast, where former San Antonio police officer, author, and pastor Tim Rupp walks you through real-life scenarios involving our police officers and digs into the depths of facts and opinions on each case. This is Cop Talk, and it starts now.
Well, hello and welcome to Strong Blue Line's Cop Talk. I'm Tim Rupp in the Rev.FM studio in beautiful Idaho Falls, in here with the station manager. You know him, you've heard of him, the one and only Gary Austin. Hello, Gary.
Hey, Tim Rupp.
Hey, we're doing something different today. No, what are them? Earmuffs?
Headphones?
Headphones. There you go. Earmuffs for wintertime when it's cold.
Right.
Okay, headphones. No headphones, so we're going without headphones today.
Yeah.
And
so this is fun.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And you know what they're thinking right now?
I don't know.
A couple knuckleheads. Okay, so we are.
That's true. Okay.
Hey, we got some interesting things. Sad news, with some of these things, but we've got informative show today, and we're here to keep the people informed.
Yes, that's what it's all about.
That's
one of them.
And one of the keep them informed. Anyways, we're going to honor our officers that were killed in the line of duty on this date in history from the Officer Down Memorial Page. So I have policeman Louis H. Lehrer, Philadelphia Police Department, Pennsylvania, end of watch Wednesday, August 21st, 1872.
Okay.
1872. Very, very little on this, Gary. It says, Policeman Lehrer succumbed to gunshot wounds sustained 5 days earlier when he was shot at the intersection of Broad Street and Chestnut Street. The suspect was convicted of Policeman Lehrer's murder and sentenced to 6.5 years in prison.
Wow.
6.5 years. Convicted of murder.
Right.
So he's convicted of murder 6.5 years.
Oh, my goodness.
And this is 1872. That surprised me.
Huh.
Usually you see the death sentence and within 2 months it's carried out, or maybe it's commuted to life.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of
even
unusual.
Back then.
Yeah.
Huh.
Policeman Lehrer was a U.S. Civil War veteran and was assigned to the 5th District and previously served as a private with the Spears Independent Company, Pennsylvania Militia Infantry. Now known as the Philadelphia City Police.
Huh. Wow.
So it was the Pennsylvania Militia Infantry.
Huh.
So, anyways, he's buried in Macapula Cemetery, Philadelphia.
Huh.
52 years old, tour of duty, 14 years. Badge number, 224. We have a badge number.
224?
224,
wow.
But that, yeah.
It not seen very often.
Usually, yeah. When it's older, we don't have the badge numbers.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Well, I wonder, 6.5 years, I wonder
52 years old.
What his life was.
Here's the thing is, Gary, he was a soldier. And back then, you just didn't retire. You just worked until you were dead. Whatever it was, you were a farmer. You were a farmer until, you couldn't physically do it anymore, or you passed out in the field. That was it, and you died. Before Social Security and all that, so unless you come into some wealth, you just worked your whole life.
Huh.
And people, we see that people took on jobs later in life. It's funny with policing because some of these people really go into it really early in life.
Right. That's true.
And then others later on in life.
Later on.
What do you have there?
This is Deputy Sheriff Benjamin Lamont Zerbel, Clay County Sheriff's Office in Florida, end of watch on this date in 2018. So Deputy Sheriff Ben Zerbel succumbed to his injuries sustained in a motorcycle crash 2 days earlier. So what happened was he was traveling southbound on a road when a pickup truck towing a trailer turned left in front of him.
Oh.
So going opposite direction.
Going northbound.
Vehicle, turned left. And so Deputy Zerbel was unable to avoid the vehicle and collided with the trailer. Of course, He was thrown from his department motorcycle and suffered serious injuries. He remained on life support until his organs could be donated. So, interesting. Yeah, he was with the Clay County Sheriff's Office for 12 years, survived by a wife and son, age 40. So
that's too bad.
Yeah.
That reminds when I was doing this research for these two, I looked up. I just happened to catch a picture of a young man. He was in Florida, and he was on the memorial board there. So he was killed in the line of duty. I think it was August 3rd, something like that. I said, man, he looks awful young. So I just looked it up, and he'd been on the streets for 3 months. Killed in a traffic accident, left a wife and like 1 or 2 kids. I'm like, it was so sad. But that Officer Down Memorial page, it's a great resource just to go on there and look. It's interesting. You get some of them older ones. You go This Day in History and click on there, This Day in History, and it'll tell you like if today's August 21st. You can go back to every officer was killed in the line of duty on August 21st. And so you go back, and there's a lot of interesting stories.
Yeah, I'll bet. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So I encourage our audience to check that out when you have some time. Get off Facebook and do something interesting. Hey, if you missed formerly aired shows of Cop Talk, they can be found on Amazon, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify podcast platforms. Okay, Gary, here's what we have today. Our first article, this comes from Police One, policeone.com, I think it is. Anyways, it says, how to maintain situational awareness while on duty.
Ooh,
knowing your surroundings and being able to react to them are crucial skills every police officer needs. Now, we talked a little bit about this before coming on air, Gary. And this is for police officers, but this is good for anybody.
It sure is.
If you're part of church security, or if you're just like, I don't do any security or anything, but you're a living being, human being, and you want to protect yourself, it's good to have some situational awareness.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean you have to go around being paranoid all the time, but just be aware of your surroundings, especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
Maintaining I'll start reading this article, and we'll just go through and talk about it. Maintaining your sense of situational awareness can improve your decision-making under pressure and allow you to get a better understanding of the circumstances you're dealing with, whether that's on a patrol run or in a SWAT operation. Let me tell you this, Gary. A lot, I teach church security, not as much as I used to, but I still teach a little bit of church security, and I'll often have pastors. They'll feel so overwhelmed by so much information they're getting. They're like, what is the one thing, the simple one thing I can do? I said, look, if you get a couple guys or gals that are aware of the situation, they're aware of the surroundings, they're being vigilant, they're watching out. That's the most important thing. And he'll be like, oh, okay, I think I can do that. Because just being aware, people tip off what they're going to do before they do it. So if you look for things that are out of place, that's key. So
that's a good point.
And that's what they're talking about. This article is obviously written to police officers, whether they're running regular patrol or even if they're in SWAT operations. Let's continue on. Without situational awareness, officers run the risk of endangering their colleagues, themselves, and the public. You need always to have your head on a swivel. Now, what does that mean? That means always be looking behind you, looking around you. Just don't get focused on one thing. Look around. Scanning the environment while focusing on the task at hand. So you got to do them things as an officer. I may be talking to you, Gary, but if I'm talking to you and we're in a public place and I'm a police officer or working security, I'm also looking around.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you at church, and if we're at church and I'm talking to you, and I'll be looking over your shoulder because I'm looking at who's coming in. And you can see that. I'm sure your dad did the same thing.
Yeah, every time.
The following are tips to improve your sense of your own situational awareness. So here's some tips. Police officers are taught Jeff Cooper's color code. So we're going to go down through this color code.
Excellent.
The first is condition white. And condition white refers to the level at which an officer is completely relaxed and unaware of his or her surroundings. Normally, this condition is adopted only at home or in other perceived safe environments. So condition white, this is the situation that most people live in, Gary. They're in condition white. They're unaware of what's going on around them. If you walk up to somebody in any public situation, you just ask them, hey, who's around you? Do you know? Well, I don't know. They're on their phone. They're talking and they're shopping. They're focused on what they're doing or who they're talking to, and they're unaware of what's going on around them. And this is so important. I taught my girls this. I taught my son this. Be aware of your surroundings. Just take a look. If you're going to Walmart, you're going to. Do they even have a Sears and Roebuck anymore?
I don't think so.
I don't know if they don't.
I don't think so. But
if you're going to the mall or something, if you're going to a ball game, before you get out, when you get into the parking lot, kind of just look around.
Yeah.
You know, if you see some guys hanging out, like, find another place to park. Just don't go there.
Exactly.
You know, and then get out of your car and look. Same thing when you're leaving. Think about where you're going.
Yeah.
If you're sitting in general admission where you have a choice where you seat, watch where you're going to sit, who's going to be around you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, just be aware of what's going on. But condition white, it really is for at home when you're relaxed or there's security other than you. Condition yellow, that's the next one. So you have white and then yellow. Yellow is the stage at which an officer is still relaxed but paying more attention to his or her surroundings. So this is where officers are on duty. This is where they need to be. They need to be in condition yellow because an officer may be eating with another officer at a restaurant. They need to be aware of what's around them, though. They need to always, be vigilant. Cooper explains that if someone is attacked in condition yellow, it shouldn't come as a surprise. You should be in this mode when on duty or when armed off duty. So if you're carrying concealed, a lot of people in Idaho do. I was at a church the other day. I was a guest speaker. It was about a month ago or so. And I go in there and I noticed one of the guys that first guy I met. I noticed he was carrying concealed. I could see. And then I saw another guy, and I know him personally. I know he's a retared police officer, so I just know he was carrying because I know him. And then I see when the pastor was up there giving announcements, I saw his pistol. I'm like, okay, yeah, everybody's carrying concealed here.
Yeah.
So, but if you're carrying concealed, you're doing so for a reason. So be aware of what's going on around you. Don't be taken by surprise. Condition orange is the level at which an officer has identified an object or person of interest that could be a possible threat. At this point, you would be expecting and preparing for an attack. So if you're in condition orange, if you're a policeman, you're investigating things.
Sure.
You're talking to somebody. Hey, come here. Let me talk to you. You're talking to them, finding out what's going on. If you're in church security and you see somebody that's something, you need to go maybe talk to the person, notify the other people, keep some eyes on somebody and say, hey, this is a suspicious situation. And investigate. However that is.
There you go. Yep.
Investigate. And then you have condition red. And this refers to the level at which the object or the person of interest does something threatening, at which point your focus changes from a potential threat to a potential target. This is where you take action. You see let's say you're working church security and you see somebody come in and they're wearing an overcoat and it's summertime. You're like, okay, that's a person of interest. I'm going to go up and start talking to him. As you walk up, he opens up his coat and you see a gun come out. Action. You need to act. You need to eliminate the threat, whether that's engage in a gunfire, whether that's tackle him, put him down, or whatever it is. It needs to be stopped.
Yeah.
So that's condition red. And we talked about this before with Grossman. He talks about condition white, yellow, red, and then condition black.
Yes, that's right.
Where you don't want to go in. So these are all kind of things that you need to be aware of, and it's encouraged you to do so. So the next thing here is adhere to objective, subjective measures. And I thought this was kind of interesting. It says during training, you can assess your situational awareness by testing yourself against objective and subjective measures. Objective measures compare an officer's perception of the circumstances with reality during a simulation task. The assessor asks the officer questions about his or her observations and impressions before, during, and after the task. What this is saying, Gary, is like if they're doing situational things, that officers are in training, they say, okay, this is a training exercise. You going into the bar, you and your partner got a call for a drunk in the bar. Go in and handle a situation. So you and your partner go into, it's a training exercise. You and your partner go in, you see a drunk, you handle it, you arrest him, you take him out. And then they go back and say, okay, what'd you see in the bar? Well, I don't know. I saw, this guy, the drunk. So what about the guy over there with the pool cue in his hand? Did you see him? Were you aware of him? Like, oh, I missed him. Or you say, yeah, I saw him. So this is the way to train officers to look at everything. Don't walk into a situation, oh, there's a drunk in the corner wearing a red shirt, and and that's your focus. Right. Look around. See other people. It could be a setup. There could be, okay, the guy's drunk but there could be a guy fighting with his wife that's got a gun. Yeah. And you just happen to come in there and he thinks you're after him. So you need to be aware of that. So I thought that was kind of cool to do that.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Subjective measures determine an officer's rating his or own situation. So after that, an officer say, yeah, you know what? I didn't do very well in this. I'll give myself a C. And so that kind of helps them. And then they rate other officers too. So it's not, so you can say, you learn from each other, like, oh, really good. You did that, or you didn't do that right. Or so training is so good, Gary.
Yeah, it really is.
And I encourage church security teams to do training, this kind of training. Next, recognizing pattern behavior. And this is key. This is very important. Closely observing and exploring situations can improve your sense of situational awareness as well. Look for behavior that doesn't fit the expected context of the situation based on training exercises. So if you're at someplace, I don't care where you're at. You go to the mall, you go to Walmart, you go to a ball game, you go to church. Somebody is acting out of character. That ought to get your attention. Right. And if you're a mom or a dad with kids, maybe you just need to take your family out of possible dangerous situation. Right. And so you need to know what's normal. For the given situation.
The thing that's I have actually talked to Carrie about this is to be aware of your surroundings. But one of the latest scams that people are doing is there's a pair, whether it's male and female or two males or two females even, whatever it is. But you're in the store, one will distract you while the other one grabs your purse. You're putting groceries in your car or whatever it is. Your purse is right there, and away they go. And you have no idea. And so that part of being aware is that trust level is...
You got to watch that,
got to watch it.
And really what really gets you is when you have the female with the baby. Right. They're distracting you. Yes. And because you're like, oh, here's this mom and she needs some help with something, and then her boyfriend or whatever comes up and rips you off or whatever. So that's a good, really be aware. I mean, everybody has phones nowadays. It's a blessing, and we know, especially Christians, they want to help people. Yeah. But you just got to be aware and be safe. You've got a phone. Call somebody. Call the police. Yep. If they're in that dire need, they need the police. Yep. Finally, it says here, maintain a tactical edge. As you speak with members of the public, remember this is written to police officers. As you speak with members of the public, no matter how mundane or unimportant the call may be, you should always have a tactical response in your mind. Remember to keep a safe space between you and the person you're speaking to, and be ready to make a quick response to any sort of physical threat. Situational awareness is a critical skill for police officers who must make quick decisions under high-pressure, high-stakes circumstances. By improving your awareness of your surroundings, you can make decisions that better protect the safety of yourself, your colleagues, and the citizens that you serve. So I thought that was some good information there.
That is really good.
And plus it'll help people understand what officers are doing. Right. You're like, I'm talking to this officer, he doesn't seem to be paying attention to me because he's looking over the top of my head or he's looking around. He's maintaining situational awareness. Right. So you understand, maybe he's not as rude as you think he is. Exactly. Not saying they are, then maybe, but maybe he's just doing something like that. Yeah. So, Gary, I want to talk, we got just a few minutes here. I want to cover this these deputies were ambushed. Talking about
yes.
situational awareness.
Yeah.
This comes from earlier this month, the beginning of the month. Deputies in with the Lake County Sheriff's Office, this is in Florida, responded to a home around 8 p.m. Friday after receiving calls about a disturbance. Normal call. Sheriff Peyton Grinnell said someone at the scene told the deputies they needed to go to a nearby home because that's where the problem was happening. When deputies arrived at the second home, they saw that the back door was kicked in and heard a commotion inside. The sheriff said at a news conference early Saturday, the deputies were met with a hail of gunfire after entering the home.
My goodness.
Grinnell said. So here we go, Gary. They get called for a disturbance. They're directed to the second house. They get over there. They hear a commotion going on inside. The door's kicked in. They've got to go in.
Mm-hmm.
They go in, and they're met with a hail of gunfire. One of the first deputies to enter the home was shot and trapped inside, the sheriff said. The backup deputy with him was able to get out of the residence. Multiple deputies responded by forming a rescue team to retrieve the deputy who was trapped, but the gunfire forced them to retreat. One of the deputies on the team was shot and injured. A SWAT team was brought in, the sheriff said. See, the SWAT team, they said, well, why didn't they come right away? Again, SWAT teams are usually, it takes them an hour.
Yeah.
An hour to 2 hours because they're at home. They're brought in for special situations. They are not first responders.
Right.
Officers are the first responders, the regular deputies. A third deputy was shot and killed. He was identified Saturday as Deputy Bradley Link. The two injured deputies were identified as Deputy Harold Howell, 41, and Deputy Stefano Gargano, 28. Hal is in stable condition after he was shot in the arm and expected to undergo surgery, authorities said. Gargano was shot multiple times and was scheduled to undergo a second surgery. His condition was listed as critical. Garnell, the sheriff, said the deputies were ambushed. The sheriff said two occupants of the home whom he referred to as suspects were found dead when SWAT entered. A third occupant was taken to the hospital in an unknown condition. Multiple firearms, including long guns and handguns, were found in the residence, Grinnell said. It was a very violent scene, the sheriff said. The deputies went to that home to conduct a well-being check at the request of the complainant that was the original disturbance call. The shooting is being investigated by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Our hearts go out to the families, friends, and Lake County Sheriff's Office after the tragic death of a deputy last night. We pray for them and for the speedy recovery of those injured.
My goodness. That is an ambush.
The officers get called for a well check. That's what the original call was for. And then they said, hey, go over there's disturbance.
It's over here.
Situational awareness. Anyways, keep your officers in prayer. Looks like we're done for the day, Gary. Time flies, man.
Sure does.
Hey, thanks for listening in. If you have a topic or question you want addressed on Cop Talk, send me an email. You can email suggestions, questions, comments, or complaints to coptalk@therev.fm. That's coptalk@therev.fm. Thought from the good book today. This is from David, Israel's greatest warrior.
Ooh.
I acknowledge my sin to you, and I did not cover my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the iniquity of my sin. Hey, thank you for joining us, and help us to make the thin blue line a strong blue line.
Cop Talk is presented by the Strong Blue Line Foundation and sponsored by Moose Ridge Coffee in Snake River Landing, Idaho Falls. Questions and comments are always welcome by email to coptalk@therev.fm. Listen, follow, leave a review, and share this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or YouTube. And visit thestrongblueline.org to learn how you can be a supporter. Cop Talk is a Rev FM production, produced and edited by Gary Austin. Thank you for joining us on Cop Talk.